EcoRI.org. All the environmental journalism fit to print here in the Ocean State, and I do have Frank Carini around the corner to talk about some of the big stories this week.
I'm back after a week off.
He's back. We kind of have a little rotation going.
Yeah, a little bit sometimes.
I'm in, you're in, Joanna's in,
Tim's
in.
once. Yep. How did he do?
He was great.
I watched it. I don't know what happened before.
No, you guys all have your fingers on the pulse, so I appreciate it.
We have you guys fooled either way.
You write the stories. It's great to have you in to talk about them, about your what you found. And there's a few this week that really kind of bubbled up to the level of really significant stories. And one of them happens to be solar, which is something that environmentalists are very keen on in the right circumstance. So talk with us about what's going on in Nashua.
Well, they have the planned to clear cut basically 73 acres to put in. Was it 43,000 solar panels or whatnot? But we're going to clear cut woods to put in solar panels. And we've talked about this many times. I got some solar panel people. I wrote a column about it. And I'm not against solar. Of course I'm not. Solar is important. But we have all these vacant big box lots. We got all these rooftops here. I think I pointed out before. We have brownfields, landfills. Why are we clear cutting forests to put in solar panels? I mean, so I think it's foolish. I'm no expert on energy or anything else for that matter, but it seems foolish. And I got some solar people, email me, and they were upset a little bit, and they're like saying I was anti-solar. But no, it's not the point. Let's use our space wisely.
So do you know where things stand currently in Nashua? I mean, there's an application. Where are they in the process? Is this
it's done? No, it's not a done deal. It has to go to the planning board,
okay.
And they have to vote on it. So I mean, it's just cleared its first couple hurdles. So it's not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination.
And of course, I mean, I'm assuming the community is keen on it for sort of maybe even economic advantages it could afford eventually once things come, if they were to build it. Is that what it's being sold as? Get solar and we'll again have some economic impact on the town that's good for town.
I've never met the town council president. I forgot his or even her name. I quoted from the Westerly Sun because all I saw was the story and it just angered me, so I wrote the column. But I mean, the president did have a good point. It's like it's a lot. It's going to be built someday. So do we want to have something that's less aggressive like solar, or do we want to have housing where we have kids in school, or police and fire have to be there? So I get that, but my point is, and that makes sense. But my point is, why do we have to build something? Why can't we incentivize or regulate where we're building things and how we're building things with the way open space is diminishing and how we're using the space? So yeah, I mean, if somebody's going to say, we're going to put in a nudie bar or solar panels, well, then solar panels makes a lot of sense. So,
well, you have me trip me up here a little bit. But as you said, again, you're not anti-solar, and you said you got a ton of feedback on it. Going to continue to take a look at see what happens down there with it.
Oh yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, and Tim will probably do a typical news story on it. I just saw it in the Westerly Sun. Cynthia Drummond wrote a story, and I just angered me, so I wrote a column.
But doesn't it harken back to, we've talked about this before, sort of that lack of overall planning strategy, both from the state and city and town wise. As you said, they said that that's probably going to be developed anyway. But that lack of sort of a cohesive look at, again, how to save open space land, what should be used for development and what shouldn't. Doesn't this just fall under that umbrella of maybe a little ad hoc planning, if you will?
Yeah, we don't have a land management plan that's statewide or even municipality. It all changes around. We don't take care of what we have with good planning. We don't.
Well, EcoRI pointed it out. One of the big stories EcoRI had done not too long ago was picking up on the fact that there's going to be naval war game exercises on the entire East Coast, not just Rhode Island, coming up supposedly fairly shortly.
November of 2018 it's supposed to start.
Okay, so they've warned the public about this. You had the original article that this was going to take place. Then a public comment period. There was actually an event. Now, did you or Tim go to the event?
Tim Faulkner did, and a Brown University intern that we had.
And so if you're curious to read about what that public input event was like, if you look at it, Tim had some things to say, and it seems to be the sort of course of action of a lot of sort of maybe contentious issues. Instead of being sort of that real public forum, it was, I think he described it as the science fair forum. There were small tables, experts, a farmer's market, if you will. Do you think it gave the public an opportunity to, sure, they could have voiced their opinion or their concerns to the individual that they spoke with, but is that the best way to involve the public in something of this magnitude?
I think it has pros and cons. Some of the people that went liked it, that Tim spoke with, or I've spoken with, I didn't write a story about it, a lot of people hated it. But there's pros and cons to it. If you have the mob mentality where it's a town hall meeting and somebody gets up and people start spewing their own agenda and it just loses
That's
what it's
not
supposed to be.
helpful.
That happens a lot. But it also empowers people that I had the same issue and now 5 other people do, and I get some answers. But this way you can ask answers to one-on-one or a small group of people. I mean, it has its benefits, but it seems like when you get to these hot button issues that National Grid has done it, the Navy did it here. Stop that town hall meeting stuff like you just talk to people one-on-one. I mean, I think maybe if you had a meeting one way, had them both, maybe that would be a good way to do it. I mean, in this case, I don't think it was as bad as some other cases, but I can see why. I was expecting when Tim went that I was going to go, and Tim said I'm going to go. I thought it was going to be a town hall meeting type thing and not this craft fair look.
The farmers market. And so let's talk a little bit about the environmental concerns. We talked about it a little bit when we knew this event could be potentially coming up. Talking about the use of sonar, other impacts on marine life. And you look at it through a lens, being EcoRI, specifically environmental lens. Do you think folks who have concerns about its potential impact on the environment will have any impact on the powers that be as they conduct these exercises? Will things get changed, or are they just going to say, thanks for your input, we're just moving forward as planned?
I think things will get changed, and to the Navy and the military's credit, I mean, they've been working on this particular environmental impact study for 10 years or more, and NOAA's been involved. And these go around all the time. They're happening. This is basically kind of like a getting their permit renewed, if you will, to do this. So it's studied extensively. I think it's important, and I think it's public comment. I really do think
They're going to take it into account.
To what they can, but it's just, and we've talked to a URI scientist who, he said it's not as bad as we perceive, and he knows a hell of a lot more than I do. But I mean, then you have it happen here, then China's probably doing it, Japan's doing it. All this noise, underwater noise, is not good for sea life, if you ask me.
But you're supposed to have a one-on-one podcast in the not-too-distant future, is that?
We are, and yes, I reached out to that URI scientist, Robert Keene. He's been he knows his stuff, and he was part of the environmental impact study, part of it, so he knows what's going on and what's happening. So he's going to be one of the guests, and then I reached out to the Navy, and they said, yeah, we'll make somebody there, so which is nice. So we're going to have a small conversation just about the environmental impact and, on marine mammals and sea life and what they change, what they can't change, and stuff like that. So it's like they were hiding. They weren't hiding.
What's the time frame for this? When can we expect the sit-down?
Oh, the sit-down with them is until the end of August. August 24th is the taping of the podcast, so it probably won't be up until a couple days after that.
It'll be here before we know it, but we're going to be keeping eyes on it. Hopefully we'll share it on Go Local, talk with you about it when it happens, so keep us in the loop with that.
Absolutely.
One more thing I want to talk with you about on EcoRI this week, kind of what's going on with the Providence City Council and their ability to have a role in, again, the sale of water from the Providence water supply to Johnston to then be turned around and flipped and resold to Barville. They've been making, a lot of town councils have been making some noise, but this one specifically changed a little bit of their approach, and they were looking to put forth a resolution to almost go on the offensive a little bit more, saying, you know what, we're not going to stand for this, and we want to move it forward. And now it's been referred to committee. Do you think that the city council can have any impact on what's going on?
The Providence City Council alone, no, probably not, but they could be added to the voice of city councils and town councils across the state have said, this is a bad idea, let's not do it. So if they join the fight, or if you will, the opposition, that'll have a little impact. But ultimately, I think even if the Providence City Council went nuts, I don't think how much of an impact they could have, ultimately. I don't think even Burrillville by itself, but if everybody comes together, which many have, I don't know what the number is, but there's a lot that have signed on to a resolution that we don't want this is a bad idea. So,
if you want, I had a great conversation with Tim when he came in, kind of from that policy approach, sort of kind of a little bit milestones coming up the next few months that could really determine the future and the fate of the proposed Barville and Venergy Clean River Power Plant proposal. So we're going to be keeping eyes on that. Well, we have you here in studio. I know I'm always picking your brain. What are you writing about next? And you say, I don't know, you'll see next week.
I do, because I was down at Providence Water this morning with a good conversation with their management. I'm doing a story, not a panic or sky is falling story, but just like lead in water. What is really the... I know you guys had something, which kind of got me thinking about it a little bit more. You guys had something about it, was it last week? And it's something I've dug into a little bit, and I've talked to people, but I really wanted to give a real in-depth look at what can be done, what is being done, how big the problem, really is.
Excellent. Well, we certainly look forward to that. We've had folks in the community who've raised concerns, who've actually done their own research. We've said what they have cited. We've reached out to the Providence Water Supply Board. They've sort of come back with their own. So again, the value of EcoRI, going in, rolling up the sleeves, spending that time to be able to see just what the story is. So we look forward to seeing
Yeah, I talked to a lot of people.
just what the story is. Okay, that's going to be a great conversation. So stay tuned. Make sure you read EcoRI. Support them if you like their work. We always have someone from them coming in on Fridays to talk about environmental issues, whether it's Frank, Joanna, or Tim. We appreciate their time.
I'm the best one.
We always have these we love you all. But we do appreciate your coming in.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week. Have a great
You
weekend.
too.
Okay, Frank Carini with EcoRI, talking about environmental issues covered in the online environmental news site, talking about proposals for solar panels in Ashaway that would need to cut down some trees to be able to do so, talking about, again, this naval war exercises planned for the entire East Coast for 2018. Folks looking to weigh in with their environmental concerns, and we'll see that and continue to follow it further. But as you heard from Frank, having some conversations with folks at the Providence Water Supply Board about the issue of lead in water. Look for that piece on EcoRI. We'll sure to be talking about it when Frank or Joanna or Tim is in the studio here at the Navigant Credit Union.